Document design and typography. Why do we need document design and typography? The purpose of document design and typography is to guide readers through a document with ease and without confusion. Document design allows for clean page design and graphics that aren't overwhelming to readers. Typography is the matter of what font or typefaces one may use in a document that enhance the piece instead of distracting from the context. Team objectives. Our objective in this presentation is to provide a foundational understanding of the design concepts and to cover the major errors that occur for both page design and the use of typography. Our main topic points are typeface and typography, proximity alignment and repetition, and visuals and graphics.
All right, and my name is Kurtis Kelley. I got typeface and typography. And so first, what is it? So the definition of typography is the style or appearance of words, whereas typeface is defined as a particular design of type. Now, the differences between the two is that typography encompasses the designing and shape of letters and typefaces. So typefaces falls into that. And so what do the definitions mean more in layman terms? It means that it narrows down to the fonts, the sizes, the organization in which the textual work is presented that matters more than you would think. And typography makes content more powerful through its detailed adjustments. So next, a deeper dive into typography, which can be narrowed down into three different defined perspectives, which are perception, culture, and rhetoric. And the perception is a mixture of shapes and letters that help create meaning through our visual perception. And the reader can interpret the text through BOMAS, an inherent developed process in which readers are able to make out difficult to read shapes/letters. And a good example is the picture on the right there with kind and today, where you can read the blurred words, even though they're blurred. So the next one is culture. Typography has a root in all cultures and groups in history, and the different cultures would use certain textual fonts and methods of writing down their work, the art/practice used to be seen as an essential job, an important job centuries ago, but technology has diminished the historical artwork that is typography. And before technology, it was a skill and a labor-intensive job to write out text and form it to the culture's distinct way of writing. A good example of that is a picture on the right where it is a Chinese movable typeface, which was used as an early printing press. And that was very cultural based. For Asian culture. And so the next one is rhetoric. Rhetoric refers to the foundation, or rhetoric would not be possible without the foundation of perception and culture. The visual design of documents through typography is how readers are able to understand and process the texts, or even the entire concepts that are being put onto the page. And an audience can be persuaded through different forms of visual rhetoric, thus making the way in which material is formulated matter. Examples of typography and typeface. So if you read the sentence at the very top, text is not as easy to process/understand if not written in easy to read fonts, such as Times New Roman, or even the same font or the same size. So that's just a good example of the different ways that we have typography just being different fonts, and how maybe it takes us a little longer to process if it's not all coherent. So typography refers to the variations of change that can be made through text, through its different shapes and letters, and through its style and or appearance. And now narrowing down the importance of just a letter in the picture graphic below, typeface narrows it down to these 5 different types: serif, sans serif, script, monospaced, and display, which all hold their own role in literature, with a more distinct role of script and display being primarily for headlines, whereas sans serif and monospace are for more so the body and the copy of a work. So if you look at the image, you can see how there's all these different minute details that we would just kind of gloss over if we were just normal readers. But you can see how there's a capital T, you can see the ear on the G, you can see the link in the G and the height of the Y, and how there's so much more to working and editing than just writing words on a page. It's also how you present the work. And so there's jobs of typography. Back in the day, before the printing press, typography was, as I said, very labor intensive, it was expensive, and it was a highly skilled process that one person would do on their own typically. And so today's computers are able to formulate the different variations of fonts, sizes, styles, and much more through just clicks of a button. And it makes the job much easier and simpler using a computer for typography, and not much of a necessity as it was centuries ago before printing and technology. And typography is more known today as graphic design. The labor-intensive anguish that it would have on someone's hand or mental state trying to get the words on a page is not so much there today. For that was a skill, an inherent skill set, versus more today, it's more of a learned trait. So to recap, in summary, typography is the process of alternating shapes, text, and letters in one's work to help convey and engage the audience in a certain way. The difference of fonts, detailed styles of text, and so many more minute adjustments can just be the difference of a powerful message and a weak message. And as an author, your work is your life, and the details of style in presenting your work is just as important as the work itself. And the editor values style just as much as the content, for the two go hand in hand when creating. And there's a history to the art of lettering and shapes. Technology has advanced society to disregard the important artwork that is typography and typeface. Although the occupation isn't as essential today, the modern equivalent of a graphic designer is more impactful than we know. And the way in which words, letters, and shapes are formed is impacting our decision-making, even if we don't even realize it. And we can't imagine a life without typography and typeface, because that life would be a life without shapes, words, and messages. And so now moving on to...
Thank you, Kurtis. My name is James Lanik, and I'm here to talk about the principles of spacing today, which includes the concepts of proximity, alignment, and repetition. So when it comes to designing a document, a hierarchy of design objects is perhaps the most important aspect, and it is especially critical in technical documents for instructions on potentially hazardous equipment, for example. Let's look at this example to the right. If this text were laid out with no respect to hierarchy at all, the reader would likely find this confusing to interpret. And instead, there should be a clear delineation between the title, the relevant headings, the bulleted lists. And with this hierarchy of information established, the reader will have a much easier time parsing the information and comprehending what is more important simply due to the hierarchy. Now, that the reason hierarchy is often considered the most important aspect of page design is that only once that has been established can an editor or author begin to design the page more thoughtfully. Another design concept that follows hierarchy is proximity. And the concept of proximity is that when two objects are placed closer together, the reader will perceive them as being more related. And the further apart they are, the less related they appear to be. And alignment is a design principle that allows us to make informed decisions about how and where design elements are placed on a page. This becomes highly important with multimodal documents that have graphical components as well as text. When considering a document that is entirely text-based, however, the four common types of alignment are left alignment, center alignment, right alignment, and justification. For nearly all bodies of text, left alignment is universally agreed upon as the most accessible way to format text in European languages due to the nature of these languages being read from top left to bottom right. Center alignment is useful for organizational pages such as a table of contents or appendix, but it should be used sparingly for a body of text as it does require more scanning from the reader to find the next line. Justification is often used in print mediums in which editors manually justify each line so that it is aesthetically pleasing, but should often be refrained from use in digital mediums due to the wide range of devices that the audience may be using to read that document. So it typically results in large gaps between words in order to fit the alignment that make the text less accessible to read. And in order for a good hierarchy to be effective, the editor must ensure the concept of repetition is established. That means that all information of similar importance is formatted in parallel. For example, each first level heading should use the same typography, text size, and line spacing so that the audience is aware that each first level heading is to be treated equally. Now, there are many tools at an author or editor's disposal so that their document is designed accessibly, but perhaps the most useful tool that encompasses all of the design elements covered so far is the use of a page grid. Creating a consistent page grid ensures an organized page no matter what type of document you are creating, from technical manuscripts to graphics-heavy magazines and even term papers and essays. It can be as simple or as complex as the situation calls for, but each grid is made up of several key components. The grid fields are the positive space areas where content can be displayed. You can see here that they are divided by these narrow corridors, which are referred to as the gutters. If you are designing a particularly complex document, it is common practice to cross these gutters and take up several rows of grid fields for a particular block of text or graphic. but that design object is still bound at each end by the next gutter following it. One very frequent mistake that amateur writers and editors seem to make is the lack of white space within documents, resulting in a pretty cluttered page. While an editor's first inclination might be to want to fit as much relevant information on a page as possible, this doesn't result in the audience comprehending more, but rather the opposite. So a page grid naturally allows the editor to visualize these margins and white space much more effectively. And page grids are such an essential tool because they combine all of the aforementioned elements we just talked about. It naturally encloses each design element, setting it apart from the others. It is a system of proximities that help the editor manage relationships between design objects. And it does the work of alignment for the editor itself, as once the grid has been designed thoughtfully, it should be used consistently throughout the document. Now, in terms of jobs, the concepts of proximity, alignment, and space are not solely enough to create jobs on their own, but they are the backbone of many digital media job descriptions. Web designers, digital marketers, and advertisers all need to learn these concepts of design to create effective content for their company, and it is a highly competitive space. And in terms of print mediums, these concepts are critical for technical manuscripts and documents. Designing instruction manuals for hazardous equipment comes with a high risk of liability if someone were to get hurt as a result of lack of proper editing and communication through those manuscripts. So if it is not communicated clearly, these can be a very serious issue. So in summary, when determining the best way to make a document accessible to all readers, these principles of space are perhaps most important. Effective use of these design elements ensures that the work is aesthetically pleasing, uncluttered, and mitigates the risk of miscommunication. Modern tools such as page grids and word processors make this task much more manageable and are critical for all editors to master.
Kaitlin, and I'm going to cover visuals and graphics. Visuals and graphics are images or diagrams that are included within a document. They're important to a document because they can either enhance or distract from the context of the piece. Unhelpful visuals or graphics are ones that lack clear contrast, contain no relevant detail, or are unreliable generalizations. A visual or graphic use should contain clear contrast, relevant details only, and generalizations that are reliable and unified. Some examples of visuals and graphics. When designing a document, it is important to know whether or not graphic is necessary to add. For example, if an article is discussing the importance of keeping our oceans clean, and some graphics and visuals that would be useful to add would be images of endangered aquatic life or graphs which contain data about declining populations of species. A reader might even expect to see these types of visuals. Examples of unnecessary visuals would be irrelevant images and graphs which would disprove the article or contain false information. Strategies for design. When adding graphics to a document, something to keep in mind is it informative, indicative, or decorative? Informative graphics are useful and can help the reader to understand a subject or create more thought, such as a graph or a diagram. Indicative graphics are also useful because they can be action-provoking and focus the reader's attention on a specific point, such as an infographic. Decorative graphics can also enhance a document by creating aesthetic and breaking up long text so it's not too overwhelming for readers, such as images. Jobs for visuals and graphics. The demand for jobs involving graphic design is always expanding as new technologies develop, as well as new platforms for information. Both digital media and branded print are fields in which graphic designers are always needed. The job of these graphic designers is to know how to format documents, to draw on the readers, as well as keep them captivated to read the whole document. They do this by having a firm understanding on how to use visuals and graphics to enhance information within the piece. Today, these types of jobs are highly attainable, as everything one needs to be successful is a computer and an understanding of document design. Overall, the importance of understanding visuals and graphics is to create a coherent document which provides the reader with information on a subject while providing useful imagery. Without visuals and graphics, a document may be overwhelming to the eye and not so welcoming for a reader to pick up. Seeing an image in between text can be a breath of fresh air for some readers. So next time you're designing a document, think about including some visuals you would want to see if you were the reader.